Okay, so for this video we're going to work on another attack, but it's going to be generated in an entirely different manner. It's going to use what's known as a particle system. At its core, a particle system is a single image which is repeated over and over again, but with certain effects applied to that image, such as transparency, change in color, change in shape, rotation. And by taking this image and repeating it over and over again, you create this cumulative effect, such as fire, or a laser beam, or electricity, or smoke. There's just so many things that you can do with it. So, there's no way in one video can we do particle systems as a whole justice. So there are going to be many settings we don't look at, many things we don't experiment with. Particle systems in and of themselves could be an entire series. Now, before we get started, I just want to point out there is a new folder here that you haven't seen before. That's because I went ahead and, in case I get stuck, I have a copy of the particle system to remind myself of what settings I need. So don't worry, this is not having any impact on the game. This is basically just if in the process of this tutorial I can't get something to look quite right, I'm going to use this as a reference because they're that complicated. So let's get started. So we go up to Game Object and we go down to Particle System. Now what this is going to be is this is going to be like a flame burst. So by default, let's scroll out a bit, you can see the particles are traveling upwards. Now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this towards the screen because it's actually in a cone. So like if we change the 2D view, that really doesn't help that much, but it's actually traveling in a cone, as you'll see in a minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that cone and we're going to face it towards the camera. So click on the rotate button up here, grab the red line, and you could rotate it. And as you can see, it's now coming towards us. You can just tweak it so it's exact. So as you can see what you've actually done if you need to manually do this, it's 0 for X, negative 180 for Y, and negative 180 for Z. So over here, as you can see, are the many different attributes you can change of the particle system. Now, looping would be, say, if it's an ongoing event, like a burning fire. When you don't want looping is for what we're going to do, which is going to be a one-off burst. We're going to keep it there just for the purposes of developing it and then shut it off before we actually use it. So we're going to jump around. I'm not going to run through these in order. Instead, I'm going to run through them as we use them so you can see how they apply. Let's go down to shape. To change that attribute, there needs to be a check there, and to expand it, just click on the bar. So like if I do that, we don't change shape. If I do that, we can change shape. So the shape can stay as a cone, but what we're going to change is emit from. Base shell, in other words, the particles are right now coming out from every spot on the base. Now it's only going to come out from basically the border. So base shell means it's coming out from the border. It's kind of hard to see because how large the particle is, but you can see it's only coming out from the very edge now. So base shell makes it come out from the border. Now let's shrink the size. So as I said, I apologize, we're jumping all around, but we need to really change these in the order in which it applies to us. So we're going to make that start size much smaller. Now what we're going to do is we're going to increase how much is coming out. Well, let's change the lifetime first, because it's a burst that should only last a very small amount of time. Now we're going to change the rate. Right now only 10 are coming out per period of time, and it's saying that you can have a max of 1,000 at the screen at a time. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to reduce that. Let's bring that down to 400. And a little bit of this is guesswork. Now, one of the ways that you can create a burst is that you can create a rate that exceeds the max particle. In other words, if you're like, I want 800 per second, and the max is 4, then once it hits its maximum, it won't create any more particles. So if you say double it, see how it's now like a burst? There's other ways to do it, but this is a pretty simple one. Now we can make it even more of a burst just by increasing that number beyond the limit. Alright, so we have the basic effect that we want. We have a ring bursting out. Now the second part is we're going to change the default particle. The particle system uses this default particle, which is just a circle. So if you noticed at the very beginning in the first video, I created this, or I brought it in, I should say. It was already created. It's just a image like any other image that's imported in, so there's nothing special about it, just like the bullet is an image, our character is an image. But what we're going to do is we're going to take that image and we're going to create a material. So go to create material and we'll call it flame mat, so flame material. What we do is if you click on that material, okay, you can change what it is. Okay, so click at the top. I just clicked on the little image there, drag and drop the flame, and now we're using the flame. So we've taken this image, turned it into a material, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take the material and apply it to the particle system. We need to change the shader, and here's an example where, like I said, one little change gives you entirely different effects. There's no way we can review all these. So for ours, we're just going to use mobile particles, and alpha blended gave us a nice effect, and you'll see in just a minute. Okay, so this is where everything comes together. You click on your particle system, you click on your flame mat, you apply it to your particle system just by dragging and dropping. We need to change the color over time, because like if you think of the base of a fire, it's like white and then yellow and then red. Depending on what's burning, could obviously be a blue color and other colors if you recall from science class. So let's just do color over lifetime. We're going to have it start as white, which is fine. If you click down here anywhere, you just create a new key color. Click here, and then we'll just turn it to yellow. Click again. Click again. And now we're going to make a red. And then we have to repeat here. And what happens, it does all the in-betweening for you, that there's briefly orange in here, a little bit of white changing to like a yellow. So now it's starting to look much more like a flame. Let's click on play. It's a little sparse. Also, we need to change the shell. It's emitting too far away from her. So if we go to shape where we already were, what we need to do is we need to change the radius. So you can just come up here, click on this, and then you just click on the inner circle and just shrink it down to kind of match her size. Now, we need to increase the amount on the screen. So let's change this to max particles of 500. Yeah, it's still not doing it. Let's do 700, and much more dense. But now we have to increase the rate. So let's bump that up to say 1500. See how that looks. Probably not quite enough of a ring. So we'll bump that up a little bit more. And again, like I said, this is really preference as far as what you feel looks best, the exact image that you're trying to get. Now let's create a little more chaos. Let's do size over lifetime, so this will make the flames actually get smaller over time. So click on this, and a graph appears at the bottom. Take the corner and just drag that down. Right click somewhere through here and choose Add Key. The reason for that is we don't want the size to decrease too quickly. We just want to decrease at the end. So getting better. Let's toss in a little rotation over lifetime. So it's hard to see, but each object is now rotating, I should say each image within the object is rotating 90 degrees. And now its size is changing over time. Its color is changing over time. You can even do transparency if you want, but sometimes the effects are a little bit unpredictable. So you kind of like a burst now, so that looks pretty good. Maybe just a little bit more. And as the adage goes, where there's smoke, there's fire. Well, in this case, where there's fire, there's smoke. So just to make it look a little bit more flame-like, we're going to add a smoke ring to this as well. So this one is going to be much easier because we can use the default particle. So again, create particle system. Rotate it towards the screen. So it's 0. Oops, I changed the right one. 0, negative 180, 180. Let's give it the same center, so let's make this 0, 0. And make this 0, 0. Now, one of the reasons why I want to add a smoke ring is because it gives us a chance to look at a couple other settings that we didn't use in the other one. Now, let's change particle size again. Again, we need a ring, although because it's smoke, it doesn't have to be quite as constrained. And now let's change, again, emit from base shell. And we need to shrink that base. Let's make sure it's the same. So for that one, base is 0.5. I'll also just make that a much simpler number. After a few decimal points, it really does make a difference. 0.54. 0.54. Let's make this a start color of gray, and the other one we didn't change the start color. Now it doesn't show up much because the background here is gray, but when you're actually playing it, it'll be against whatever background you're with. And now this is the setting I was talking about, start delay. You don't want the smoke to start immediately when the fire does. You want it to be trailing it like something is getting scorched. So you give it a brief start delay. Now we have to make sure the other settings are the same as well. So start speed of 5, duration of 1, start speed of 5, duration of 1. Okay, let's take a look to see how this looks. Smoke's getting kind of covered up actually, so let's give it a slight more delay. Almost there. Yeah, that's good. Not perfect, but it shouldn't be overpowering. It should be subtle. So now you have the flame ring with the smoke behind it. Let's just tighten up that smoke, the fire ring a little bit by making it more of a ring. Let's see how that looks. Okay, that's good because now that really looks like the fire's turning to smoke at the edge. So I think we got our final.